In a tranquil meadow, where the sun casts gentle rays on the lush grass, and life seems a continuous celebration of nature, a disquieting sight lurks in the shadows. An ox, a massive creature of strength and stubbornness, stands at the fringe of this picturesque landscape. But look closer, and you will witness a ghastly horror that disturbs the serenity, a wound that resembles a demented beehive, pulsing with life and death intertwined. This disturbing spectacle draws the viewer in, making them question the very fabric of nature. How can a creature so majestic fall victim to such a grotesque display of nature's wrath? The wound, a festering cavity teeming with bees, is not merely a grotesque aberration. It is a macabre testament to the harsh realities of life in the wild. Here, in this dark corner of the earth, bees, tiny yet formidable, have transformed the ox into a chilling hive. The sight is enough to churn the stomach. The bees, clad in their buzzing armor, infiltrate the ox's flesh, transforming it into their nesting ground. The ox, in an ironic twist of fate, has become both the host and the casualty in this dreadful encounter. It's a living paradox. While the creature struggles to survive, it hosts countless bees that feast upon its very being. Bees can be merciless invaders. They typically thrive in the hospitality of flowers and trees, weaving their lives around blossoms, gathering nectar, and pollinating plants. However, in the world of the ox, the bees have embarked on an expedition of chaos. Through no fault of the ox, a weak or infected spot on its skin may have provided an unsuspecting entry point for these tiny marauders. What begins as a harmless sting quickly spirals into a nightmare. The bees, attracted by moisture. In the heart of the African savanna, a creature of breathtaking beauty prowls the land. A white lion, its fur gleaming like moonlight against the dark backdrop of the wilderness. But this majestic animal carries a burden that is both disturbing and grotesque. Upon closer inspection, one cannot help but notice a horrific barnacle wound festering on its flank, a grim testament to the harsh realities of nature and survival. This isn't just a wound, it's a living horror, a scene that would make even the strongest stomach churn. Imagine the sight: rugged, barnacle-covered crustaceans embedded deep into the lion's flesh, their hardened shells a stark contrast against the soft. This wound is not merely superficial. It is a disturbing reminder of the thick fog that can envelop even the noblest of creatures in their struggle against nature's brutal laws. Barnacles, those seemingly harmless sea critters, adapt to life in the most unexpected places. Often seen adorning the hulls of ships or clustering on rocky coasts, these organisms can become unwelcome guests when they find their way onto the skin of a land-dwelling creature like the white lion. When conditions are ripe, perhaps due to a mingling of pollution in water sources or invasive behaviors that drive them into new territories, these barnacles latch on with a voracious appetite, embedding their calcareous bodies into the flesh. The result? A grotesque slow-motion tragedy of infection and decay, laying bare the lion's struggle against not only its natural enemies, but also the unsolicited burdens imposed by other species. As these barnacles thrive, they disrupt the normal healing processes of their host. The wound festers and becomes a hotbed for bacteria, turning into a dark, oozing mass that repulses yet fascinates. Is this the terrible price that beauty pays? Or perhaps an unsettling reminder of nature's unrelenting cycle of life and death? As we gaze upon the plight of this noble beast, we must reflect on the delicate balance of ecosystems. Every action reverberates through the web of life, reminding us that human encroachment often leads to unforeseen consequences. The lion's struggle against barnacle infestation is emblematic of the larger struggle between humanity and nature, where our footprints leave lasting imprints on the souls of innocent creatures. In the end, in the icy realm of the Arctic, where the sun barely pierces the frost-laden air, a polar bear prowls along the frozen shoreline, a majestic behemoth of white fur and raw power. Yet, this magnificent creature is not the embodiment of pristine wilderness. Instead, it bears a grotesque reminder of nature's brutality. A horrific barnacle wound marred across its flank tells a tale of suffering and survival, catching the eye of anyone who dares to glance. The barnacles, those hard-shelled crustaceans that cling tenaciously to any available surface, have chosen this grand beast as their unwitting host, turning its once gleaming coat into a battlefield of infection and decay. This painful infestation often begins innocently enough, one or two barnacles attaching to the bear's skin, taking advantage of its outdoor life spent in frigid waters. However, as these industrious creatures multiply, they can wreak havoc upon their host. The polar bear, while adapted to its harsh environment, is not equipped to handle this invasive onslaught. The barnacles burrow and latch onto the skin, opening wounds that ooze and fester. The bear, now a grotesque canvas of humanity's neglect, suffers in silence. Each bite of ice and snow becomes a reminder of its painful burden as it experiences the chilling symbiosis of suffering and survival. As we delve deeper into the mystery of barnacle infestation, we realize that the ties between these crustaceans and their host are not merely physical, but also ecological. Barnacles thrive in the cold, nutrient-rich waters of the Arctic, taking advantage of a changing environment, one that is increasingly influenced by human activity. Pollution and climate change have rendered this once pristine habitat susceptible to invasive species, creating conditions ripe for barnacle overgrowth. The polar bear, a symbol of the wild, becomes an innocent victim of nature's balance in the vast, frozen expanse of the Arctic, where stark beauty collides with brutal survival. A sentinel of the ice lies in grim repose, a polar bear, king of the frigid landscape, now marred by an unsightly horror. This majestic creature, with its white fur that glows like moonlight against the relentless cold, wears an affliction more grotesque than the chilling winds that lash against its hide. An infestation of barnacles. Picture a wound, deep and festering, that protrudes from its thick, rugged skin. It's an alarming sight, an unsettling reminder of nature's stark duality, life and decay intertwined. As the camera zooms in on the ghastly spectacle, we see the barnacles, those seemingly innocuous crustaceans, clutching onto the bear's body with an iron grip, transforming it into a veritable landscape of destruction. What could lead such imposing wildness into this grim plight? Barnacles, often depicted as mere hitchhikers of the ocean, make their insidious homes on anything they can cling to, including the fur of unsuspecting mammals. This startling phenomenon doesn't just happen. It occurs when their tiny larvae, drifting with the currents, sense the warmth of a host's body. Once they anchor down, they begin to grow, enveloping their unsuspecting host in a calcareous shell as hard and unforgiving as the Arctic ice itself. The polar bear, once a symbol of ethereal strength, becomes an unwilling vessel for these crusty barnacle colonies. As they multiply, they cut into its flesh, creating wounds that ooze and fester, eroding the polar bear's majestic essence. Blood mixes with the chill air, and the bear's labored breaths punctuate the silence, echoing the deep struggles of survival amidst the stark beauty of its environment. These barnacles are more than mere freeloaders. They are demanding parasites, feeding off the bear's vital resources, and in return, providing nothing but a ghastly spectacle of natural cruelty. The infection they catalyze sends ripples through the bear's fragile ecosystem, akin to a dark ripple on placid waters. In their insatiable pursuit of survival, the barnacles highlight a chilling reality: life is fragile, and our existence hangs by the thinnest of threads. Nature, with all its beauty, operates as predator and prey, a ceaseless cycle of life where the balance is often tipped by the very act of living itself. Yet, beneath the surface of this gruesome tableau lies an even darker undercurrent. The polar bear's plight is not solely an unfortunate encounter between species. It is a stark reflection of the environment's degradation, orchestrated by humanity's hand. Climate change, wrought by pollution and greenhouse gases, causes ice to melt at alarming rates, disrupting habitats and forcing bears closer to shores where barnacles thrive. As their icy homes disappear, these majestic creatures are left vulnerable, becoming the perfect hosts for infestations that spell their suffering. Thus, the barnacles serve as somber harbingers of in the heart of the savanna, a scene unfolds that will challenge your perceptions of beauty in the wild. Here, a lioness, the queen of her domain, stalks the grasslands with a regal grace, but upon closer inspection, the majesty of this creature is grotesquely marred. Her once powerful frame is riddled with barnacles, crustaceans that have made an unholy home on her flesh, transforming her noble silhouette into something out of a nightmare. These barnacles cling to her body like malevolent leeches, their hard, calcified shells a cruel reminder of nature's darker side. This haunting sight, far from the romanticized vision of lions ruling their kingdoms, is a stark revelation of the gruesome toll that nature can exact. Barnacle infestation in animals is more than just a peculiar phenomenon. It's a harrowing testament to survival, adaptation, and the harsh realities faced in the wild. Barnacles, typically known for their associations with ships and coastal rocks, have chosen a most unconventional host in this lioness. Using their sticky appendages, These parasites latch onto the lion's skin, feeding off her body while encrusting her in layers of sharp shells. The pain of their presence is palpable, yet she roams, a paragon of strength even as she bears this grotesque burden. The barnacles thrive in an environment of decay, feeding off the lioness's natural oils and nutrients, leading to infections that fester beneath the surface. It's a disturbing dance of life and death, one that showcases the relentless cycle of nature, a predator slowly being consumed by what typically rests at the bottom of the food chain. The sight reveals a grave irony. The mightiest of beasts can fall victim to even the tiniest of foes. Amidst this gruesome tableau, we are forced to confront unsettling truths about our own existence. Humans, too, in seeking dominion over nature, obscure their own vulnerabilities. We build barriers between ourselves and the natural world, only to find them peppered with barnacles of our own. Environmental degradation, pollution, and conflict, creeping into our lives like those crustaceous invaders. This eerie relationship, where the hunter becomes the hunted, is a mirror that reflects the fragility of life. Perhaps it's a chilling reminder that in the wild, survival is an intricate balance, easily disrupted by the very forces we often overlook. Yet, in the midst of this morbid reality, one might jest who knew that even a lion could have her own pesky barnacle problem. Thus, the lesson lingers. Stay humble, for nature has a way of turning the tables